All right, I want to welcome everybody to another episode of The Shadows Podcast. I'm your host, Trip Bodenheimer, and today I am joined by Tony Richardson. He is the founder and chief executive officer of Capital Catalyst Group. He's actually retired active duty and officer in the United States Air Force. Sir, thank you for joining us here on The Shadows Podcast.
Hey, I greatly appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I really enjoy the show, so I'm humbled and honored to be a guest here today.
Yeah, you were one of the ones that reached out to me around my March Madness episodes and were like, Loyola Marymount. Oh my gosh. Well, everyone this generation thinks Loyola is Chicago.
No, they got it all wrong. Like, they don't know Hank Gathers and Bo Kimball. They don't know the real Loyola. So.
I know. Every time I hear it, I think of Marymount. So Before we get started, you're actually you're traveling here today, aren't you?
I am. It's actually I'm surprising the family. They're on vacation right now, and so I had told them that. No, they were like, "Are you going to come up for a few days?" I said no, but of course I had my tickets purchased like way before, so I've been playing this little game, like trying to head them off because they keep trying to ruin the surprise and make other plans.
So you're in Atlanta en route to. You'll surprise them by the time this episode comes out. So you're in Atlanta en route to New York.
I am. Yeah. Oh yeah. It'll all be done by that time. And my wife, who famously hates surprises, it'll be good. You know.
Yeah.
I'll convince her. So our anniversary, we just had our 16th anniversary earlier this year.
Oh
so.
Wow! Congrats.
Or earlier this week. I'm sorry. Yeah. So.
Nice. Yeah. Well, congrats on that.
All right.
So first rapid fire question that we're going to get started with here.
All right.
Favorite airport for a layover? We talked about this before we hit record. and why is it Charlotte, North Carolina?
So Charlotte is my least favorite airport on the planet. Honestly, I like every time I fly through Charlotte, I'm at the end of like E terminal. And so, you know, the plane will land. You know, you've got to do that weird run across like the parking lot, the flight line or whatever, and try to get inside. And then you got to get all the way to the atrium. I never get to enjoy the Bojangles or the piano that's out there.
The rocking chairs. They got the white rocking chairs.
Exactly. I get to enjoy none of that because I've literally got 6 minutes to get up that little half escalator and then get my rear end all the way down to like the B terminal or something. It's like the two farthest parts. So I don't know anything about it other than it looks like it's nice in the atrium. And then I usually get to the end of B terminal for them to go and have us delayed on the runway every single time. So
I love just sitting back in the rocking chairs, having a Bojangles biscuit, and I love it.
See, that's my experience with DFW.
I hate it. And that's the one.
I'm like, it's my favorite. I'm like, there's no airport better other than Atlanta. DFW.
I will purposely go out of my way to avoid that. The weirdest one I had was I was at Davis Monthan, and I was flying out of Phoenix to go to Denver. Well, guess where my connection was? Minneapolis.
What? So they flew you an extra 1,000 miles?
Yep. If you can picture a map in your head, they flew me all the way to Minneapolis, then flew me down to Denver. Makes a lot of sense.
Oh my gosh. What actually, so what's the best airport in the world you've ever been to then?
Best Heathrow.
Heathrow in London?
Yeah.
For me, it is probably it's a toss-up, but I think I'm gonna give it to the airport there in Dubai.
Haven't been there.
Oh my gosh. I like lost my mind. It's a full-scale shopping mall. You got like palm trees and all kinds of other stuff is in there. Really? It's just unreal. Like, so yeah, there was nothing like the experience for me flying out of there. I was like, man, this was amazing. And it was on a TDY too. So it was a pretty sweet setup.
Yeah. I've been to Heathrow is probably my favorite. Definitely. Next question. You can have dinner with three historical figures who are no longer with us.
Ooh.
Who would you pick? And why?
3 historical figures who are no longer with us.
They can be athletes. They can be athletes too, because I know you're a sports guy.
Big time, big time. I would have dinner, number one, with Jackie Robinson, because my great uncle was a pitcher in the Negro Leagues. And so so I've been of course I'm a sports fanatic, but growing up, it's James Hicks, fireballer, pitcher. And so he would tell stories of, what it was like, facing off against people like Cool Papa Bell, all of these guys. And I was like, wow, and so I think it'd be really interesting to hear him talk about not only the things that he ended up going through, not only in, making the major leagues, but also throughout his career and afterwards. My favorite leadership quote actually comes from him, which is, "A life's not significant except for its impact on other lives." And we can see the results of that legacy play out today. I think he would probably be number one on my list.
Okay, so we got Jackie Robinson.
Yes, I'd go Jackie Robinson. The second one I would go with, I would like to have dinner with Winston Churchill.
Okay.
So this gives you somebody from like a political side or whatever.
Different point of view, yeah.
Yeah, different point of view. And so, a lot of the things that you'll go and read about, like as far as diplomacy is concerned, he was really an interesting mind. So he's somebody that I'd really enjoy sitting down with to kind of compares like, hey, you wouldn't believe the types of things we're dealing with today. But then again, maybe you would, because some of his words still ring present. So
big turning point in history, like world history back then.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll be interesting to, get a measured, an outsider's perspective, but from a mind who we respect regarding some of the things we see today. And then last but not least, I'm going to go with Albert Einstein. So I'm a nerd. So I'm a sports fanatic. People tell you like, hey, I like sports. I like cars. I like sports cars. I like reading and family and travel. That's it. Yeah. And usually that travel involves sports, cars, or family. Like that's it.
I'm that guy that travels and goes to baseball stadiums.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the best things about being stationed in the Northeast region, by the way, I could get to like 50 pro sports teams within a 5-hour drive. It was the greatest setup ever as a young airman. Oh. I tried to go everywhere. College, pro, didn't matter. I was going. Yeah. But yeah, Einstein, again, another one of those quote things, hey, there's a lot of inventions and things that we understand, but there were things where he was also ahead of his time, and he would continue to push the envelope, work diligently to go and address issues. And so, where he says, if I had 60 minutes to solve a problem, with the first 55, I try to figure out the right question to ask.
Yeah,
that's a skill that I think if we did a better job of asking some critical questions, we may be a lot better equipped to address some of the issues we're facing today. So Einstein would definitely be my third.
Albert Einstein, Jackie Robinson, Winston Churchill.
There you go.
It's a diverse group right there. Very diverse group. Okay. What is something that you find yourself laughing at that you shouldn't?
Ooh.
I got a really safe answer to this one, but I'll let you go first.
So my son and I, we have a thing. I don't know. I guess it's relatively safe. We have a thing. We know that if it's been like a rough week or whatever, we will go to YouTube and we will literally just type in fail videos.
Yeah.
And our favorites are usually trampoline fails. And it doesn't matter what their age was or what the circumstances were. We're going to die laughing. And we'll be on there for like an hour or two solid, just crying, laughing. And then, go get some Doritos out of the kitchen and terrorize his mom, terrorize the wife.
Mine's Impractical Jokers. They do a lot of stuff on Impractical Jokers that I'm like, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but I got to.
Yeah, I'm kind of a prankster as well. So maybe I'll tell you more about a couple of those in a little while.
So I will tell you this. So I'm notorious for playing pranks on people. People that work with me hate working with me. but I keep them clean, especially in the military. And one of the guys that I worked with at Spangdahlem, he went out of town for Christmas, and in his office he had all these, the German license plates, the really long ones, thin, long ones. So I think it was for staff, promotion or selection to staff sergeant, they had all of those from the selection party, but they printed out like 300 or what have you, but only like 50 people went to the promotion ceremony. So they had all these stacks of license plates. And we were like, man, what do we do with these things? So when he went home for Christmas, I basically parqueted his floor like the Celtics court with all these license plates. And then I think we wrapped every single thing in his office with clear wrapping paper. And we took the Christmas tree from the instructor hallway, put it in there. I mean, like his whole office when he opened it but he gets back from leave, and I see him at the gym, and he walks up to me. He was like, hey man, what's up? Yeah, I saw my office. Yeah, it's cool. Whatever. I'm fine. Totally didn't want to acknowledge it whatsoever. But he was like, I'm having a really bad morning. I didn't need to walk in and fall over, but he had one license plate, which a flight gave him as a gift. And I put it like in the middle, like mixed in. So it was like, where's Waldo? So if he just went in and started cleaning them up, he was going to pack up his class gift one too. But yeah, this is your rapid fires. Let me get back to this.
Oh no, it's good. I always enjoy a good prank.
What is an area of your life that you're never satisfied with?
My patience.
Yeah.
My patience. And which is which is literally a part of that answer right there. It's like, oh yeah, I wish that like there are times when you wish that you were able to wait for more things to unfold, but because of the way I'm naturally wired, I'm all about, finding ways to spark change. Are there ways that we can be more efficient, more empowered, more effective, more encouraging? Like, what does it take? There's always an answer. So, rather than just waiting for things to develop, which I would do on a basketball court, like, that there's a time and place for everything. Like, hey, look, you can't thread the needle if the hole never opens up. So, patience would be my number one thing by far.
I've heard that about me too. I don't agree with it, but I've heard that about me too. Final rapid fire question, and then we'll jump into your story. You could recommend one book to somebody. What would that be?
Oh, if I recommended, only one?
I'm gonna bend the rules. It's my show. You can do two.
All right, fair enough. I'll give you the lighthearted answer.
Okay.
So Bill Simmons, The Book of Basketball.
Okay. Bill Simmons has some good books.
The Book of Basketball. Yeah, as a basketball fan, especially like pro sports, he's a mind that I also respect. It's unfortunate he's not still doing his thing on like ESPN or whatever, because he is hilarious. Mm-hmm. That book and the way that he goes through, the history of the sport itself, along with, answering the number one question on most people's minds, which is, hey, the Martians are invading Earth. You've got to get your Space Jam team. Who is at top 5? They're in their prime. And the answers that he gets, it's just phenomenal. You're laughing start to finish. Just a great book. If I had something something more serious in nature, I would probably go with Freakonomics by Stephen Dubner and Stephen Levitt. I'm a big fan of behavioral economics type books as it is, why do we do the things that we do? Mm-hmm. So in the book, they use a lot of random comparisons. Like, what do a school teacher and a sumo wrestler have in common? Like, it has all of these weird things that you wouldn't normally associate with each other.
Yeah.
With hilarious answers. Their podcast is also phenomenal. It's got like probably 407 episodes. Like, it is just phenomenal to listen to. And it's a mix of, much like this show, where you have like, hey, different people that are interesting characters from all over. Maybe they're a researcher at Stanford, or hey, here's Andrew Luck going and talking about, why he retired from football. Just really random things, but making it really relatable to the people who are listening in the audience. So I absolutely, that would be the number one book.
You're a sports guy. Have you read I Came as a Shadow by John Thompson, former Georgetown coach?
I have not. I've heard a lot about it, but I have not added it to my cart. But
Grab
I do have 16 things in my cart. I've got 16 things in my cart.
Make it 17.
Got it.
No, you'll love that book. I loved it. I'm probably going to read it again. It was really good.
So it's worth it.
So you have survived the rapid fire round. I threw in that extra question. You got the most questions ever because I threw in that airport one. But now we're going to start chronicling your journey. So for our listeners out there, I always like to say, for someone listening to this episode who has never heard of you, you have that 60-second elevator ride. How would you describe yourself?
All right. Well, I'm a thinker, competitive strategist, as my good friend O'Shawn Jefferson would say. Love to have fun. And I understand, probably most importantly, is that I understand that we don't always look like what we've been through. So no matter when we intersect, there's always something to be gained. We should always be respectful of the backgrounds that people have, they share, and just remain genuinely curious about the world around us. That usually goes a long way to taking this 60 seconds that I have right here and turn it into the next 60 years of our life. There's always that opportunity.
And you can give a whole lot of spoilers. Most people tell their whole story right there when I do that. So that was perfect because you still leave a lot of meat on the bone. So you grew up, tell us about your upbringing. You grew up in Columbus, Mississippi.
Yeah, man. So there is an Air Force base that's there. They focus on pilot training. Although we just kind of grew up there. So my uncles, I have two uncles, one joined the Air Force, one joined the Army, but we just kind of grew up in the area. So the base was like nearby.
So you weren't military brats or nothing?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So I live with my grandmother, my mom, I've got 4 younger sisters. And so girl power.
No testosterone whatsoever.
No, none. Oh my gosh. Matter of fact, so my mom will tell you this to this day, and they still make fun of me. Like, when the family gets together, it's like, so I have one sister who's like 2 years younger. And then my next sister's like 6 years younger. And so, you got a 50-50 shot. And so like, oh, we're having a girl. Oh, all right, whatever. And then the next one, they're like, and it's the very next year. And I'm like, what are we having? They're like, girl. Now I'm all broken up. I'm like, man, I'm never going to have a brother.
I want someone to guard.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And then the 5th one, my baby sister, my mom was like, oh, yeah, I can't, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, keeping it from me. I don't know yet. I was like, well, I'm 11 years old and I've watched the belly grow. I know by now. And so I overheard her telling someone at church that it was this was also a girl. Oh, I had a whole meltdown. Like, this is garbage. Oh my gosh, nobody's gonna play Nintendo with me.
Yep.
Yeah. So but I love my sisters to death. One of them is actually active duty. She's stationed in Japan. I'm sorry, in England. She's got orders to Japan. We just found out. So
that's a rough life going from England to Japan.
I asked her, how did it work out? I was like, hey, what did you say? And people liked it because I got paid to talk for the second half of my career and it never worked because I wasn't able to get overseas like that.
I know
only for the short stints.
I know it's your sister, but that makes me sick. England to Japan. Gosh.
Yeah. And when she called me and asked me about it, she was like, I don't know. We were thinking about extending for a year. And I was like, do you really want to roll a dice with where else they might send you coming back? Like, clearly you've done something right. Yeah. They're taking care of you. You go with it.
What were some of the struggles you had growing up?
Ooh, so I grew up in Mississippi, and so there were a couple of things. So one, single parent household, so here's my grandmother, my mother, those early years, we bounced around from like trailer to trailer. A lot of people there's assumptions we make about the world that are there. I'll tell them, like, as a kid who's like 5 or 6 years old, you learn things like, hey, in order to flush a toilet, gravity will do its thing if you're pouring water into it. You just got to get the running water that was there. So the toilet doesn't work. Or what do you have to do about hot water or baths and stuff like that? So there's a lot of that like early on or whatever. I will also tell you that, grew up, and, viewing, and I'm okay to talk about all these things now. Make sure you guys go seek help. I promise you it works.
Yes.
But like growing like domestic violence and stuff like that within the household with my stepdad, like those things were like etched into me as far as like, hey, when you know that there's better, you know that there's another option, but why don't more people take that? Or why don't more people take the time to be respectful of X, X, and X? Like, hear the words that you say, but then the actions that you portray do not align with the values that you say that you espouse. So that's going to remain a problem to me, especially for early me, who is naturally a thinker and I question things. So yeah, that didn't usually help me. So, but yeah, we all moved in with my grandmother. We lived in a little 1-bedroom, like a shotgun house.
Yeah.
Like from the time I was in the 5th grade all the way until I graduated. And so it was fun because like it's my sisters. And even though we're all on top of each other and they've got all their, stupid Barbie dolls everywhere, I was successful in convincing them to play double dribble, a little Street Fighter action. When regular PlayStation came out, little battle.
You didn't get them to trade the Barbies for starting lineup figures?
No.
You remember starting lineups?
I do. I had starting lineup figures and the WWE wrestling guys. Oh. So Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior is my favorite.
Look,
shaking the ropes.
I have no shame in sitting here saying right now, I still have my Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, $1 Million Man. I still have all my old school. And I would give anything to have the blue ring. You remember the blue ring that came with it?
Yes, I do.
Oh my gosh, that was my life.
You know what? Okay, so let me ask you this question: out of that era of like WWF superstars, who is the one who wasn't a A-list superstar, but that was your guy?
So I got a 2-part answer to that. For one, that wasn't an A-list, but was my guy, I would probably go with Bret Hart before he got big.
Okay.
Like Intercontinental Bret Hart. I was big on him. And but the one person that I absolutely hated as a child, and hated, I'd go to school upset because of this person. But now, as an adult, I'm like, he might be one of my favorite people in that era, Rick Rude.
Ravishing Rick Rude. I just saw a meme of him yesterday.
The man would airbrush his opponent's wife on his tights. But as a kid, I was like, I hate him. But now I get older and I'm like, well, for one, I want to look like him. But two, he was like such a good bad guy. So I'd probably go Rick Rude.
He may be one of the better villains that was out there. I can't lie. Yeah. Ravishing Rick Rude.
And his stories about him, I hear, are like crazy. Like he would go into bars just to start fights, and he conned like a group of police officers into arm wrestling him for like $300 or $1,000 or something, and then I mean some crazy story. Like Google Rick Rude stories, and you'll hear some crazy stuff. What about like growing up? Did you deal with, especially, and this is not, calling out Mississippi or nothing, but what sort of like racial issues did you have to deal with growing up?
So, early on, if you grow up in an environment and that's the only environment, you don't actually realize a lot of, hey, that probably shouldn't have played out like that, or those circumstances shouldn't have been like that, until you're either been exposed to something different or something significant or major happens. Yeah. And so, so being there in Montgomery, we have like the Equal Justice Memorial, that initiative. Yeah. So that museum, it's still like, even speaking about it right now, the hairs on my arm.
It is amazing. Like you have to go there.
You have to. And so I took my family event, like it took me a while to go to it because like so I'll give you some more of like what actually happened. I'll tell you why it took so long.
Yeah.
But last year took the family and we walked through, and of course I was very curious. It's like, let me walk in and find the pillar, because like you have like the
counties,
like each state, the counties.
Yeah.
I was like, let me find the pillar that represents the county where I grew up, Lowndes County. And there were so many names of confirmed victims that were there that it made me like I had no choice but to step back, like, and really take stock of what it was, and then go and research and think about the city's history. And so I'm literally having this moment while standing there, like, all right, this makes sense, because the city, as far as the Civil War was concerned, the city sits up on the top of a pine bluff. It is crossed, so you got two rivers or whatever. So the slave trade was super active through there. The Tennessee and the Tom Bigby waterways, they kind of intersect there. And then my city sits right there on that bluff. And so where all the slave trading would happen was literally right there. And so the elements that remained and remained in power and still are active to this day, we still show up in the news for the wrong reasons, including last year during all the George Floyd stuff as well. Those elements kind of remained in place. And so even with, for me personally, well, number one, the school that I went to in the 5th and 6th grade, public school, was called Caledonia. They're still there. It's their mascot's the Confederates.
Still in 2021.
Oh yeah, it would look. Well, the chant is like "Go Feds, go!" Right?
Gosh.
You don't want to say Confederates. They've got the fight song and everything else. A lot of and to be fair, they are working on this whole situation or whatever. But you've got different schools that all popped up just as segregation was supposedly outlawed, and so these new, these private schools pop up, and so you've got the Patriots, you've got these other things, and all of the mascots for them, your coloring, the school flags, the fight songs, everything else, all of those elements were still very much present, to the point where, another thing that I look back on, I graduated in 1999. My sister, who's in the military, who I just spoke about, she graduated in 2000 and, wait, let me make sure I get it right, in 2007. The year that she graduated was the last year that we had split homecoming courts. So there would be, 9th grade, who's the black representative, who's the white one. Same thing all the way through.
Really?
Black homecoming queen, there will be a white homecoming queen. Whole separate courts. Remember, this is still in the internet age. People got Facebook and all that. Yeah, it's a huge deal. You know what I mean? So those elements and some of the things that go with it are very much present. And so for me, I knew that one way or another, I needed to find a way to escape not only those things, like I'm a non-threatening guy, clearly, but it doesn't change the way that you're viewed if they don't know you. Yeah. So it's hard to really categorize or quantify exactly the types of feelings or emotions that many people share. We still talk about it, like me and a lot of my really good friends. Things are still unsettled there, to say the least. But it's just a reminder that we do have plenty of work to do. I would, as a book recommendation, I'd recommend somebody read like James Lowen, Sundown Towns, like the places you can't stop on the highway. Like you just know, after dark, hey, you don't stop here for gas. Like we know these things about our state as well. So Columbus is fine, you'd be all right, but there are places that are around that we know, we don't do that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, to change gears a little bit here, when did you decide, hey, I'm going to join the military? And
so it's funny.
Why Air Force?
So it's funny because it's related to a racial issue.
Oh, okay.
So I went, so in school, like I famously try to find the most efficient way to do things, which is a fancy way of saying I am lazy.
Okay.
But I was always like so super talented. So I made a 31 on the ACT, but fell asleep during the test. 1,400 SATs, fell asleep during the test. Had full scholarships anywhere I could go. But I grew up watching SEC stuff, right? So I naturally stayed in SEC country. The program that I wanted wasn't at Mississippi State, which is my favorite school of all time. Just saying, Hail State. They
College
are doing
World
really
Series.
well in Omaha. Exactly.
Did they beat Vanderbilt last night?
No, they play again tonight. So
they're
they're undefeated
Vanderbilt
right now. No, not Vandy. They've got the winner.
Texas.
I think it's the winner of the they beat Texas the other night.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Which was huge. I'm like, oh my gosh, we might get it done. And so, yeah. But Ole Miss actually had a better scholarship situation. They actually had the degree program I wanted. Problem is, Ole Miss is not exactly known for being very forthcoming. Some of the things like James Baldwin. I mean, you think about what integration looked like there. Not very good. And so the month of February, so this is my freshman year, Deuce McAllister was there. He's a football fan. So he had an amazing year. I mean, a monster year. So he went pro that year as well. In February, we had a lot of unrest on campus to the point where in my dorm room tower, there were 24 rooms and 2 dorm rooms, so 48 guys who live on this floor. I'm the only black guy.
You're at Ole Miss.
I am at Ole Miss. My room is across from like the closet where all of our cleaning supplies were.
Yep.
And February 1st, just another day, I open the door and there's a swastika that's painted on the wall right in front of me. I have the pictures at home, everything. Like, oh, it's going to be this kind of party. All right, whatever. Later that month, maybe a week or so had passed. Good friend of mine, he became a residence hall director at University of Tampa. Phenomenal guy. He was white and actually, but he was just super cool with everybody. Like, who could not like Carl? He was one of the, he's a big guy, just always happy and all this stuff. We were playing NFL 2K on Dreamcast.
Okay.
Yeah, we're playing NFL 2K on Dreamcast because there is nothing in the world more unstoppable than Randy Moss. Yeah. I remember that vividly. They threw a brick through the window with the note tied around it. And like they didn't even know we were in his apartment with him, but they've got all of the hey, what you love and everything else. Loaded. It was like epithet soup. And later after that, they tried to set this man's apartment on fire after it was like right after a party or whatever. You always had like a party on Saturdays or whatever. They tried to set his apartment on fire, and I knew like it was so bad. I'm able to talk about these types of things now, but then I had no way of really dealing with or processing.
You're still young.
Yeah. There's no way to process all of those things, and so I completely stopped going to class. I was done. Like, nope, we are done here. I left Ole Miss with a 1.3 GPA. Wow. So the same guy who graduated with honors and is a state champion in mock trial and physics and all these other things has somehow escaped his freshman year with a 1.3. Like, how'd you get the 0.3? And I was like, oh, I went to ROTC. I liked working out with them. They were all super cool people. And the ROTC, and the director at the time was like, man, you're talented. Well, clearly something's off. You should really give some serious thought to joining the military. And they were all super cool. So I was like, you know what? That's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Because I was aware, like, it was never about what I could or couldn't do. It was about what I was interested in. Mm-hmm. And so I knew I wasn't interested in being in Mississippi anymore. I wasn't interested in any type of that unrest. I was looking for a change, like what I thought things are, how they should be. Something where you are, judged more on not just the content of your character, but also the merit of what it is that you bring to the table. And so those things were a lot more appealing to me. And so I ended up enlisting 3 weeks after the semester officially ended.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that story. I mean, that's unfortunate to hear. But you joined the military, and you joined. What made you pick Air Force as opposed to Marines or Army or any of the other branches?
I was 6 years old, and my grandmother, she used to work on Columbus Air Force Base as a cook or something, and the Thunderbirds came to visit, and I remember I was like, oh my gosh, so they do all the stuff for their air demonstration or whatever, and I just remember looking up and being like, man, that is awesome. And then we had one field trip there. But think about it. That's base is literally 10 minutes from there. We had one field trip to the base, and I was in like the 7th grade. And as kind of like a tech guy or someone who was interested in computers, they were showing us the flight, like the simulators and stuff for the aircraft trainers.
Yeah.
And so they were full motion and everything else. And so you go in and, hey, you're flying an F-16 or a T-38, which is what they had there, T-37s, T-38s. And you flew under the Memphis Bridge. Everybody had like their turn at it. And I was like less interested in that and more interested in how the things work. And seeing that all of this technology was like right here in our backyard when none of the rest of my city looked anything like this.
Yeah.
And so, I always kind of had that itch to do something tech related. So
what was the biggest transition from going to college? Biggest transition from Ole Miss to active duty Air Force?
Biggest transition would probably be the fact that, in college, you're kind of there for you. The moment you join the military, you join the team, you've signed up for some things like that commitment. Sometimes it takes a little bit for it to resonate with others or even within ourselves. Like, hey, I've got to put a lot of those personal things to the side because, hey, I'm here to serve and protect freedoms, not necessarily enjoy them. I've decided to delay that gratification. So, that's probably the biggest transition. It's like that mental thing.
What was your mindset like, though, after enduring all of that in college and now you joined the Air Force where, we're all blue?
Yeah, I got in trouble all of basic training for being too happy.
I could see that. Yeah.
So how I was like, look, I was just happy to escape. Like I'd gotten a couple of the little notes. It's like, hey, don't wear a shirt that has that's going to make you stand out or anything like that. I'm like, oh, that's easy. So I wore a plain white t-shirt and some blue jeans. It's like, I just kind of stood there. But
smart.
As you know, as the, the TIs, the training instructors, they're going out, they're ripping into people and everything. Some of the things that they would say was absolutely hilarious.
Oh, it's comedy gold.
Yes, it's comedy gold. And I like, oh my gosh, it is like, I was like, where do y'all come up with this stuff?
Oh, it's so, and you can't laugh. You can't laugh.
And that was my problem. I grew up like my dad, like from an early age, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, George Carlin across the 90s. George Carlin's still one of my favorite top 3 comedians of all time. These guys like Red Fox, like these stand-up comedians kind of shape the way that I think about the world because during all of that pain, it's always good to find a way to get some laughs in. So these guys are just unloading and I'm mentally not ready for it. And so I didn't do anything wrong other than laugh when they said the hilarious things. And oh my gosh, I came out of there about 15 pounds of extra muscle.
For our non-military listeners who've not been through basic training, especially like basic training back in the day, there was, just to give you like a little insight, there was a kid in my basic flight who showed up with the Air Force shirt that like the recruiter gives him. And this is like one of our first days and I'm standing there and a TI, we were getting our haircuts and our TI walks up to him and he's like, I like that shirt. He's like, Air Force shirt. He's like, nice. You've earned that, hadn't you? He's like, I want you to do me a favor. He's like, I could tell you either your recruiter gave you that or your daddy gave it to you, but I want you to do either one of them a favor. Write them a note and tell them for setting you up for the biggest ass chewing you're ever about to get right now. And all of us were trying not to laugh. It was so fun. And then oh my gosh, just I could sit here for
Oh,
hours, and I'm sure you could too,
yeah,
just talking about the things they said, but it's so funny.
absolutely. Yeah, because they would swarm.
Yeah.
Like that's when that's yeah, like that was the part that was funny. It's like, somebody drops a glass or whatever in the dining facility. You've only got like a minute or two to eat. Somebody drops something, and oh my gosh, it's like vultures, and they're going in. But the things they are saying are hilarious.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
oh my
I,
goodness.
I went up to a TI because I couldn't find my flight. I got separated from them, and I went up. No, I don't remember how, but I remember I went up to a TI. I'm like, I'm looking for my flight. She was like, "Do I look like a damn GPS to you?" It was brutal, but
Yeah. But yeah, no, that was the hardest transition. It was like, hey, this is that thing that they, and it actually, and to be honest, it's part of the way that, throughout my career,
mhm.
uh it's a big question that people have. It's like, hey, you got to maintain your military bearing, where you got the stonewall face, the thing you see, like, the few, the proud, the Marines, you see in the commercials or whatever. And so if you had to define military bearing by those standards, oh, I tell you, my career was a complete failure, because I laughed and smiled and enjoyed myself the entire time. But we took care of business
Yeah.
to the point where, things paid off extremely well from the very beginning. So yeah, it was just a smiling thing.
What made you decide to go from active duty to officer?
Oh yeah, so after I enlisted, I went to I was an aircraft mechanic. So I was worked on KC-10s. For those of you, like, for forever, FedEx flew the commercial version of the DC-10.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people would work on the aircraft. We were there in New Jersey. We're also stationed out at Travis in California. But it was an easy transition to go and work commercial from doing that. And so you already, like, hey, the technical orders weren't like all your other Air Force TOs. It was they were written for somebody who already knew what they were doing. So you had no choice but to go and learn a lot more about the aircraft itself
Mm-hmm.
if things actually went down, because they were written for professional mechanics and not necessarily the step by step, do this, do this, do this, with all the guides and stuff. So it was cool, but I don't weigh that much. And so pushing, like, equipment and stuff, and then being in the snow and working nights in New Jersey, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm not really built for this weather. I don't think I'm built for this lifestyle. Maybe I can just teach people to do it, because they pay you more for what you know than what you can do. So I volunteered to go to Shepherd, and I was able to earn 5 degrees in 4 years.
Not
So
bad.
three associates, bachelor's, masters, got married, had a first kid, took a year off because I destroyed my knee and got lazy also, and worked at Best Buy on the side for 2 years. So all of that occurred between 2005 and 2009, when I left for OTS. But I was faced with a choice as I finished my degree, my master's in communications.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to drive the 2 hours to Norman from Wichita Falls, Texas. So every, like, 2 weekends out of every month, 2 weekends was one class. I'm like, that place is sports mecca. Like, they get it. I'm gonna make this drive, and sure enough, the opportunities were there. Hey, we've got a day set up for your communications majors and stuff like that. So positions with the Mavericks were open, the Dallas Stars, Oklahoma, of course, if you wanted to continue to work there with the school. Like, all of those things were
Dallas
there.
got SMU too.
Yes,
Yeah.
which is finally on the rebound after the death penalty, which we could go into another whole.
Yeah. There's a 30 for
Yeah,
30 on it. Really good.
yeah, phenomenal. I was about to recommend it as well, but yeah, Pony Express.
So you're
But
going up to Norman. That's Oklahoma, right?
yep.
Boomer
So
Sooner.
I'd make the drive. Mm-hmm.
By the way, Google why these, excuse me, Google why they are called the Sooners. It's actually a pretty interesting story.
We'll
Had to
do.
do It had to do with
I feel
claiming
like
land. There was like a cannon
yes. I
that
had
would
to think
go
about
off,
it.
and they would have to, you'd claim your land, but certain, I don't know the exact term, but the individuals would go out and claim the land before, like the night before. They were Sooners. So it's an interesting story. I'll butcher it. I'll do like Tim Taylor and butcher it up if I try to do it on my
own. Yeah, man. But like with those opportunities that were there, I realized I was kind of faced with a choice. Like, I do like this Air Force thing I'm doing. If I can get the one job that I want, which remains communication related, then I will definitely go and commission. And so I commissioned in public affairs, and the rest is history.
And
that's
you
what
retired
I wanted all along. I did. Just retired in August.
Congrats.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
What's the biggest thing, looking back at your military experience that you had, what's the biggest thing you learned about yourself? Other than you're lazy.
Yeah. I learned that I need to find a better way to describe it than just saying that I'm lazy. Now, I would probably say that regardless of your circumstances, we are often the cause of our biggest problems, but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Because that also means that we are the key to the solutions that we are seeking. If only we take the time to process it, make sure you've developed the support structure and things like that you need in place, things will eventually work themselves out as long as you continue to work at it. And so, the support structure portion, I did not realize, it probably wasn't, it didn't really hit me until I was retiring. And, the people are like pouring in from all over. You've got a mix of, oh my gosh, why are you leaving? You're at the top of the game. What are you doing? And you've got also, they're like, welcome to the other side of reality. Yeah. But like all these people who you cross paths with, at random times, there's this big outpouring of support. Like, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And so even in this transition, those same contacts, they remain true to their word, just like what I experienced as I was growing up in the military and watching those same things play out for the people who were separating or retiring, or no matter why they left, no matter what the circumstances were. There are people who got in trouble, big trouble, and yet we don't turn our back on our fellow brothers and sisters in arms. So being a part of that and saying like, that's family, that has been worth it. There's no way to repay that experience.
I was just going to ask you about the networking piece. Like what advice would you have for someone who's, over that 10-year mark, they're kind of seeing the, tail end of their career, but like they're seeing that they're, hey, I'm in this for the long haul. How important is networking?
One of the lines that you'll hear from different people, John Maxwell mentions it as well. It's like, hey, people may not remember what you say or what you did, but they will remember how you made them feel.
Emotional memories.
And so every time you cross paths with someone, and it doesn't matter what it is that they were doing, you don't know what type of an impact you're going to have or where you might actually cross paths with them before. Or again, perfect example, my very first troop in the military, you may know this guy.
Oh, do tell.
He is Connor Gray.
I do know Connor Gray.
I know you do. Yeah. So over there, Senior and SEAL Academy. Yeah. But he's our first trooper in the military. And so I'm getting ready to PCS. So I graduated ALS. I put on staff. He is showing up at the base, and I'm like, hey, look, here's how things work. Be hungry to do something different. Be hungry to do something amazing. Don't feel as if these circumstances around you should be overwhelming or any of that stuff. And by all means, if you ever need anything, never hesitate. Like, I will always be here. Didn't realize that later on, hey, look, I crossed paths with him again in like 2015 on a deployment where I'm an officer now. He was like, oh man, I remember what you said, blah, blah, blah. Then I heard you got commissioned, but we lost contact. And then now we're at the same deployment location, and he walks right up. It's like, it is so good to see you. I was like, oh snap. Wait, you've gotten promoted extremely fast. Like, what's going on here? Yeah. And then later on, I'm teaching at it's part of LeMay Center, and he shows up down there, and we cross paths again. Like, yo.
You made him salute you though, right?
Oh no. I brought it in. It was like, yeah. I was not. Yeah. No. I was like, what's up?
Good to see you too. Good to see you too. Now, where's my salute?
No, he saluted. I was like, no. What's going on, man? Great to see you. Yeah. Yeah. The only person from my enlisted time I had to make them salute me. It was because it was part of a ceremony, but I made him hold it.
Yeah.
And it was a guy. He was Mark Swope, so he was the guy who did my very first salute. Special to me, one of my favorite people on the planet. But he's a person I learned a lot of like leadership and what it means to legitimately stand up for things, regardless of how difficult or what the odds and stuff like that might be.
Yeah.
Especially when it was something that was process oriented. Like this is not how this is supposed to work. And so, as a young staff sergeant, being able to see somebody who had walked and was confident and all that other stuff, I was like, that's what I'm talking about. That's my guy. So yeah, still friends to this day, of course. Yeah, I did his retirement ceremony a couple of years ago. Still a highlight of probably a highlight
really
of my career.
cool.
Like, oh man, you asked me to do your retirement ceremony. This is super cool. So yeah.
I always tell people, I'm like, retirement ceremony, that's a big deal. Like if you're asked to do a retirement ceremony or if you're mentioned at somebody's retirement ceremony, I was like, imagine as I tell all the instructors all the time, or even when I was an ALS instructor, I would tell the students, I'm like, imagine 20 years from now, somebody's doing their retirement ceremony and they mention you as that game changer for them. That's gold. That's better than anything that goes on a wall. That's good stuff.
That's the point. Literally, that's the point in the ceremony where you look over and you see somebody like, I'm not crying, you're crying.
Exactly. So how many years were you in the Air Force total?
I did 20.
So you hit it right on the dot. You were like 20 and I'm done. So
20 and
transition from that to civilian world. What were some of the hurdles you had to overcome? Like I'm sure that wasn't like perfectly smooth. Boom, I got out, got a job, ready to go. Like what are some things you had to, in hindsight, you would possibly do over from that? And I have a dog barking. My apologies if y'all hear a dog. I'm not going to edit him out.
Oh, no worries. He's just being friendly. Just curious about what's happening.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know that if there's, well, you know what? The one thing that I would do differently is that I would probably have gotten an earlier start on investing money.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So now it wasn't necessarily like so if you back up slightly, like right after I commissioned, I spent like 2 years at Shaw. But then after that, the rest of my career was like the takeoff. It was like rocket. So I deployed to Baghdad, but I was working directly for the State Department when I lived on 5 Union 3. So you've got all of these political connections that are right there. From there, after I left Delaware, I PCS to the Pentagon. So I spent 3 years there. 2 of them working directly for the 2 chiefs, General Welsh, General Goldfein, running specific programs for them, cold calling people from the industries to go and talk about different issues that we share across the spectrum, like organizational change. What does the future of work look like? Diversity and inclusion related topics. We've been working on these issues for forever, but I go and build networks and relationships with these people from your major, like mid-size and large-scale companies, along with representatives from the communities wherever we had bases. So whenever they would come in, I'd help them organize their days so that they'd spend, some time on Capitol Hill, sometimes speaking to the officers that were there in the Pentagon that had a vested interest in some of the issues that were affecting them in their community. So again, that meant that the network was expansive. I spent a year from there at Coca-Cola headquarters. So the Education with Industry program matches up, and all of your branches have like training with industries for the Army, the Navy's name is similar as well. But we spend a year with all of these, Amazon, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, UPS, FedEx, SpaceX, all of these huge major companies learning, how do they approach the same problem sets that we have? And again, that's additional network building so that whenever it's time for you to go and transition, you've got a large base of people to go and choose from. So I felt like I was very, very fortunate, especially with my last position there at Air University. Everybody who's anybody comes through Maxwell.
Yes.
At some point, and some of them come through multiple times a year. And the amount of like foreign dignitaries and everything else that end up passing through is awesome. Through the International Officer School, same thing. These are people who are, they were selected to come here to the US to go and do their training. They're usually like they're going to be chief of staff there, military here in 20, 25 years. And so having that ability to go and interact with some of these guys, I can't put any price on any of that. But again, I just wish that I had smartened up and actually took the time to, hey, look, here's this investing thing. I started, and don't get me wrong, I don't have like, there's no issues. Like I have no debt. Like we're golden, no college debt, no anything other than the house. So I just wish that I had started early, because I might, I'd easily be a millionaire now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
definitely the investing thing.
Talk to us about getting John C. Maxwell certified. You already mentioned him earlier with a quote. So talk to us about that experience.
Yeah, I've been book junkie. Never read a book I didn't like, but one of the things I really, really liked, and it's probably the thing that I enjoyed most in my military career, was being of service to others. What are the things that we can do? It's like, I know that my past is, all kinds of crazy things everyone there. So everybody that I meet, I just assume that, by default, no matter what it is, like, we don't go and compare the stories. Yeah. What we can, all kind of coalesce around is the idea that there are things and issues that everyone deals with because it's just life. Are there ways that I could help spark change within their lives, within themselves, within the communities, the networks, the places that they frequent, so that we can leave this place better than what we found it? And so he has some phenomenal phenomenal books. The Leadership Gold is one that I'll always point to. As a communicator, everyone communicates, but few connect, is one that especially resonated. And so at that point, I was like, man, this is really, really good stuff. And my cousin, she's a PhD type author and all this other stuff. She's like, she's like, hey, I actually do this. Would you be interested? She's like, you have an interesting delivery style. You tell jokes, you do all this other stuff. It's engaging, it's different. We could use that type of energy, if nothing else, because you have a story to tell. You have a narrative. You've been helping people craft theirs for all this time. You'd be crazy not to go and extend more of that reach by doing something like this. It's like, you know what, you're right. And so, I took her advice, followed her like the path she kind of outlined for me, and just took off. And to be honest, it illuminated a lot of things about the way that we show up for others, for me. And I felt like I was even sharper afterward, like after that entire experience. And so I'm still learning every day, but yeah.
How so? Like, what do you think?
It's a life-changing experience, number one. But probably more importantly, so Todd Simmons, I believe you're familiar with Todd as well.
Trying to get him on here. Just throwing that out there.
Trying to get him on. Yeah. Look, I'll shoot him a text right after we're done. Like, man, I just recorded a podcast.
Tell him I just dropped it to him the other day on the phone call. So tell him, be like, man, you got to do this. Yeah.
I got him. I got you. I'll definitely let him know. But he talks about empathy. And one of the phrases he talks about, that he uses, is empathy is like seeing with the eyes of another, feeling with the heart of another, like that type of a thing, right? If you can't put yourself in that space, it's gonna be really difficult for you to earn the respect, the trust of anyone that you ever come into contact with. So the things that Maxwell has woven throughout his books, whether he's talking about connection, where he's talking about the invaluable laws of growth, is his ability to make all of those lessons relatable, as if he's sitting there and you're just having a conversation like the one that you and I are having now.
Right.
Like, it never feels like it's too far out. It never feels like it's overloaded with, the technical jargon of the day or whatever your hot buzzword would be. It's just a conversation, but delivered in a manner to where there's always something that you can pinpoint, you can anchor to, and you can find that point in your life that might reflect it similarly. And then ask yourself the question, how might I go about this differently or in a more effective manner? Or who else can I engage? And what do I need to do to remind myself that I am built for this? The fact that I'm still standing here means that there's still work to be done. There's still something that I can do about this issue that's in front of me. So, yeah, again, just a really, really powerful experience. And I honestly don't think that I would have, well, I know for a fact, there's no way I would have started my own company going and doing this leadership, professional development stuff, even though I'd been doing this for the military for, a couple of years.
Right.
There's no way I would have, jumped out and said, let me go start my own company without that type of life-changing experience, both in terms of what it meant for me, like thinking through what, the text and stuff like that means. And then also, well, I've got all this other material because there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I get into, but it's good to be able to go and weave that style, that storytelling, that narrative arc. And then of course my unique brand of humor, since, pranks are a thing.
And I tell people that because a new sponsor to the show, Giant Worldwide, I got certified through Giant. And I tell people, don't just go out and start getting certified and this and this and this. Find something you're passionate about with it. And it's something that's you not only believe in, like Giant Worldwide, but get certified in something like that you believe in is going to make you better, even, especially for military folks, even when you take your uniform off and make that transition. So I think that's awesome that you talked about how that sets you up for what a good transition to our next piece, Capital Catalyst Group. So tell us about the genesis of Capital Catalyst Group.
Hey, so Todd Simmons, who we mentioned there, another great friend of mine, O'Shawn Jefferson, he's retired Master Sergeant, but he owns Deal Solutions. O'Shawn and I have known each other for years. I met Todd once we got to Montgomery to Maxwell.
You get me all kinds of guests here. I like this.
Oh yeah. And look, all sports fanatics. So number one, there's that. But then also we were all kind of united around the idea of, so you are in professional military education, and the way that, like for us, the way that education has kind of been given to us for forever, like the educational model, we won't tell you it's broken. We'll simply tell you that it is not applicable to the way that people prefer to consume information. And is it timely? Is it effective?
Learning styles.
You can hang all of that stuff up.
Oh, yeah.
So we're like, hey, well, if we are a university, then we should have the ability to go out and experiment. Like that's a whole thing, what's innovation actually about?
MGM
Failing
works
hard.
in Alabama.
There you go. Like if you're going to be a university, then you should go and research better ways to do whatever that thing is that you do, which is educate people. We should be better at how we educate people. So O'Shawn and I, another friend of mine, Jovel Green, who is Jessica Player, who just made chief. Another phenomenal story. It's like another person who, like, the hair on your arm stands up.
I've got her coming on. She's coming on here.
Good. You're really going to enjoy that. Look, let me plug in. You're in for a treat. Do not miss her.
Oh, I love her. She's been very instrumental in my career.
Yeah. So we all traveled and we would go out and do workshops. So instead of, waiting on like your, like an enhancement seminar, if you're a non-military listener, imagine your company putting on like a 2 or 3 day, I don't know, professional development workshop for you, where you get like different soft skills and everything else, but they go way out over and above maybe that one thing you do. If you're Janice from accounting, I'm not just going to talk to you about accounting. We're going to talk to you about accountability and respect and empathy and team building and leadership and connection and all these other things that help amplify the way that you show up in the workplace and ensure that it is something that really feeds into a productive team culture. And so we would go out and we would do this very, and we did it in a few bases. We started giving different types of seminars all over Air University. out of our Center for Strategic Leadership Communication. And, we literally just asked ourselves, hey, why not? Why wouldn't we get into something like this? Like, this is something that, is it something that you'd wake up to do and you do it for free? Yep. That's how you found your calling.
Yeah. That's very true.
Would you do it for free?
I get to go to work versus I have to go to work.
There you go. And so that's literally my mindset is, hey, people call or people want advice, or maybe there's a Fortune 500 company or whatever, and they work through an issue, but I've got connections that are there, and they just want to have a conversation. Always happy to do it. I know you probably should monetize all of those things. Like, no, man, these are my friends. I'll let those things sort itself out. I'm blessed.
If our listeners want to find out more information, where could you point them?
Actually, I pride myself on being like accessible for anybody, no matter where you are on the planet. Because I've got friends that are like stationed in Korea, people in Asia, people in Afghanistan right now. So usually I'll tell them, hey, go to linkedin.com/n/CCG-CEO. Like, that's my thing. If you go to Clubhouse, CCG-CEO.
Oh, you're at Clubhouse.
Yeah. Clubhouse, yeah.
How do you like Clubhouse?
It's so as a sports fanatic, I wish there were more rooms, hint, 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 where you could have those really good conversations about some of those things. But I do like the fact that so I've had conversations with Tom Arnold.
Wow.
Yeah, which phenomenal. There were only maybe like 6 of us in the room or whatever.
With Tom Arnold, 6 people?
Only 6 people.
Wow.
And I was like, this can't be. This is definitely the real Tom Arnold. Like, you hear his voice, you know it. Like, his profiles, everything, it's all lined up. And one of the other people that were there was like, it wasn't even like a handler. He was just genuinely curious, and somebody invited him in to a small room because he was like a business owner or whatever, but he frequented the establishment pretty often. And here's Tom Arnold. We're just, talking about sports, talking about politics, just a random conversation. So the accessibility is where I think Clubhouse has its magic. Like, of course, there's rooms where there's nothing productive happening. You have some where they're like, hey,
majority of them, you scroll down.
Yeah, you scroll down. I usually, if there's more than 15 people in a room, I'm usually not interested in it anyway.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. You scroll through, it's like, how to keep my man, how to
do it. I'm
like,
hard pass. But there are some small communities, like, for like cars, or even for there's really good communities there for like wounded warriors. I will put that plug in for like veterans, wounded warriors. There's some really, really good things. So if you're transitioning, and you want to hear like some authentic stuff, there are people who will give you the advice, the information you need, dealing with the VA, or, maybe pursuing higher education or whatever it is that you want to go and do. People are just giving this information for just away and are happy to share it. That's what we're supposed to do. So that much I will say is worth it if you can find the rooms.
Okay. So let me ask you this. What have you learned most about yourself now that we're on the tail end of this pandemic that we just experienced?
I learned that I'm a people person who hates people, but needs people and loves people.
Connecting all the dots on that one. As a connector, yeah.
I am a connector. Yeah. So I'm a people person. I like everything that I do is like for like here's my family. My minions know that the way that I give them information, or the way that I energize them through the lamest dad jokes of all, or, hey, let's take a ride in the car. Like those things, like, let's just go outside and play basketball, or coaching my daughter's volleyball team. Like those little small moments, they know that it's all for them. Like, where there are so many years where one of the two of, so my wife, she retired in 2017. We had 7 straight years where one of us was gone for at least 6 months.
Wow.
Minimum. And so Miss Christmas, all of which were Miss Christmas, all of them, you know what I mean? And this is with 2 little ones. So yes, I got to play single dad, I guess, if you will. she was the one who actually missed both our kids' first birthdays, first steps, all of that stuff. She was deployed during those.
Sacrifice.
I'm there for her. Yeah. And so being able to be present for all of these moments as they're growing into the productive citizens that I know that they will be, because they're super talented, super grounded, super humble. And like being able to see some of those pressures and anxieties kind of lift from them because they knew that, okay, mom, dad, we're not going to have any of these long, whatever. It's on our terms. We can go where we want to go. I'm not worried about those types of things or them going off to war and all of that. Just being able to see that grounds you in a different way. So being able to spend that time with them, and then, going through COVID, which COVID is still going on, just so people know, go get vaccinated. Just saying. We're in a place with not the greatest rates, while new variants continue to show up. I need to be around people though. So even though you would say that, hey, you have all the reason in the world to give up on these people, but yet you chose to protect, support, and defend their right to exist and voice these, alternate opinions or practices or policies. And growing up where I did, the way that I did, no place that you go is going to be perfect, but they are still places, and you can make an impact to go and make it better. And so I just, doing all the delivery of like workshops and stuff like that in a remote form has been fun. I love it. But man, there is nothing like there's a different type of energy when you are around people who are united for a common cause. That type of camaraderie is the thing that many people say that they miss when they leave the military. You can count me among that number, but it's not as if camaraderie doesn't exist right there in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our churches, with our sports teams.
Even if intentional with it, go out and seek it.
Yep. So, yeah.
Final question for you. For you here. Your kids, people that have worked with you, people who have interacted with you, 50 years from now, when they mention Tony Richardson, what do you want them to say about you?
What do I want them to say, or what are they gonna say first?
What are they gonna say that's like, what would they say to people in public, and then what would they say behind closed doors?
Okay. So so the first thing that you'd hear from them is like, wait, is that the guy who drove all of the cars that had the Jason mask hanging from the rearview mirror?
I have to ask about that one before we move on.
So like ever since I had like my first car, like there's been something that hung from the rearview mirror. There was this little green stuffed animal I had for a while.
Yeah.
It was like this little weird green alien from like Scream. Yeah, like that face or whatever. And then I replaced it with a Jason mask while I was there in high school. And so when I went to the military and I got my first car or whatever, little 96 Dodge Avenger, my signature remained. So from the late 90s
why Jason
all the way
mask?
Through here. Okay, so doing car shows, you always needed a theme.
Yeah.
Right. So there's actually three. I actually had to do a video on LinkedIn because so many people asked me about this. They were like, man, we hope that you would have a retirement ceremony. COVID canceled it because that was the number one question we wanted you to address. So I was like, so there's three reasons. One, the mask itself. I'm a car fanatic. So I've got 3 Audis, one of which shown up like Audi Club North America, these magazines and all this stuff. So my S7, fully wide body, that's my rocket ship. So much fun. Well, no matter what car I have, they all have had the mask there because you need the theme for car shows. And so I grew up like thinking Halloween was like the coolest holiday because free candy. Who turns that down, right? So,
except for during a pandemic.
There you go. Except during the pandemic. Yeah. So, so because of the theme, I always stuck with it. So it was always incorporated into the design of whatever car. Because I always look at things not as they are, but for what they can be. And that includes the car. So it's kind of a reflection thing. The second reason was that vision portion that I talked about. So growing up, like here's what's there, but are there room for improvement? Like if you had the ability to go and take shape and mold this thing into something bigger, something greater, what would that look like and why? And so, I take the mask and then continue to go in shape and do my thing. But the last one, and probably the most important one, is we often go through life operating behind some form of a mask. Mm. And so, we actually began this conversation talking about, hey, we don't always look like what we've been through. If you got that 60 seconds in an elevator and they're like, oh, hey, how's your day? Everything else, we give the, oh, everything's cool, blah, blah, blah.
Living the dream.
For me, yeah. And it's, you don't know if they really want to know the real answer. But I drive everywhere I go. I always play DD. When I step out from behind the wheel of the car, it's always a subtle reminder, like every time you get out, that's an opportunity for you to step out from behind your mask and step into your authentic self, because only then can you be whatever it was that you've been placed on this planet to be.
See how that's tying in with this shadows thing here?
There you go. Stepping out of the shadows, step out from behind the mask.
Right. So our little spinoff, Rise from the Shadows, I almost went with some sort of unmasking theme with that. Did have a little luchador thing with it as well that I was going to go with. But it's actually pretty cool. You speak of the Jason mask. I actually, I have a Jason mask, a NECA one, that I have signed by, I think, like 5 or 6 of the guys that have played Jason. It's one of my...
What?
It's like that, and then my kids, and then it's that is like one of my prized possessions. I love it. If it wasn't like all the way over there, I would show it to you, but it's beautiful.
Gotcha.
Well, if people want to find out more information about you one more time, where would you point them?
Yeah, man, you can always, I have a Facebook page. You can always search Capital Catalyst Group. LinkedIn, you want some more that one-on-one conversation, linkedin.com/CCGCEO. You can always email me. Like I will always answer. So literally just Tony at capitalcatalystgroup.com. And about literally anything, sports, life, politics, anxiety, PTSD, depression, all of those things. No matter what it is that people want to discuss and need to get off their chest and trying to figure out a better way to do business. Where I can't help you, I know someone who can.
What is it? Doctors have doctors, lawyers have lawyers.
There you go.
Yeah.
Therapists.
Or if they're looking for you, find the car with the Jason mask. And then they know you're somewhere around.
That's also true. I've been tearing up the Southeast now that COVID, car shows have returned. I've been spotted in these streets literally every day. I think I've only slept at my house 3 days in the last, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks or so.
What's your go-to music to listen to in your car?
Ooh.
Like you're trying to be heard. You're sitting at the stoplights. You want someone to recognize you. What's your go-to music?
Depends on which car I'm driving.
Okay.
So each of my cars is like completely different. So my wife's car is a blacked out A4. So it's just a sedan, right? It's supposed to be the family sedan, but it's also tuned, turbocharged, got a nice set of wheels on it, but it's her car.
Yeah. If
we're in her car, we are probably listening to Mark Anthony, some salsa or reggaeton, because she is from the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
Yeah. If I have a Chevy Caprice, because I thought In the Heat of the Night was the coolest show ever growing up. And so, yeah, you can fit like 5 dead bodies in the trunk, but instead I did a full crushed velvet. There's like 4 12s, 4,000 watt amps. Like that one was set up to do sound competition. So
yeah,
the old school bass mechanic CDs that are loaded, like, yeah, you can usually find me somewhere there. I have a wagon.
What's your go-to with that one?
I drive a station wagon, and I usually don't listen to anything in there. Like I like
the radio. You listen to the radio on that one.
I listen to talk radio. Like, hey, what are they talking about? I'm not seriously. Like, there's some interesting.
You don't even try in the station wagon.
No. Yeah. But the station wagon does it. Look, it's an Audi. It is. It's got nice 20s, big front mount, intercooler, and all that other stuff. Like it's.
Oh, you're building it up like it's the Griswold station wagon.
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
It is tuned. It is so much fun. But I guess maybe because it's the most practical of all of the cars, if you will. I listen to like SEC, like Paul Feinbaum show.
Yeah.
I listen to stuff like that all the time in there. I have a truck. That was my retirement gift to myself. I've got a nice set of JLs in there. You will usually find me listening to, I listen to some 3-6 Mafia because I am from Mississippi. Yeah. So that, I'm kind of like, yeah, let's get moving. Let's get excited. Let's get moving. So yeah, they've always been a go-to for me. And then in my rocket ship, I will listen to literally anything, to include like old school Soundgarden, Black Hole Sun.
Black Hole Sun. I was one of the weirdest music videos you've ever seen in your life.
Trippy. I was like, yo, that's what acid is all about.
We started off talking about Barbie dolls. They have melting Barbie dolls on that.
Yes, they do. Still probably the weirdest video I've ever seen in my life, but I really like the song.
That or Land of Confusion by Genesis is a weird video. With the puppets.
Yeah. I went through this weird phase where, I'd listen to like Green Day, ICP.
You're an ICP person?
I'd listen to literally anything, but that was more a reflection of all of the different influences from the people who are around me. It's like, all right, well, so there isn't a type of music that I just don't like. If you ask me what's my favorite country song, I'd probably tell you it's Honky Tonk Badonka Donk. I just think it's hilarious.
Like I had a little 3-2-3 that I used to roll up to in high school, listening to Drew Hill and Fugees. I was,
See, so if the wife's in the car, that's when the good R&B playlist comes out.
Yeah.
So, my wife's a Tupac fan, diehard. Like Tupac and Eminem are her go-tos. And then as far as singers are concerned, she really likes, it's a bachata band called Aventura. And then Maroon 5.
Oh, God, my wife likes Maroon. I don't like Maroon 5.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Tupac is good workout music. I would listen to All Eyes on Me. Disc
Tupac
1.
is Disc 1. Yes. Perfect for running. Like the pace, the cadence.
Yep.
I would actually, matter of fact, I would pace myself while running to California Love.
Mm-hmm. Like I don't like the one on the CD though. The one on All Eyes. I wasn't a fan of that one. I had to get the other one.
Yes, had to get the other version. Yeah.
All right, so we're about to start going down rabbit holes here with our music choices.
I know.
Final comments for our listeners.
I'd leave you with the probably the same thing, the same quote I gave you at the very beginning from Jackie Robinson. It's like that's kind of my marching orders, which is, hey, a life's not significant except for its impact on other lives. So go be significant. You are significant in someone's life, whether you know it or not. And so, yeah, that's it. If we can do that, I feel like we could actually make some headway.
Yeah. Well, sir, I know you're going to get on a flight here in just a little bit, but safe travels. Thank you so much for taking time to do this. And folks, that is going to conclude this episode of the Shadows Podcast.